Hello and welcome back to the Münster podcast. I am Charles, joined with your other hosts, Isaac and Ben. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How you guys doing?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm kind of tired though. It's very sad.
It's currently 3 p.m. and these guys have just woken up.
Sorry,
Well,
hold
that is
on,
not
hold
true.
on.
I've been up for 2 hours.
Hold on, I would like
So you woke up at 1 then.
Yeah.
Right, I need to explain my situation, right? A car alarm was going off throughout the night, throughout the whole time, meaning that I couldn't get any regular sleep, meaning that I got practically no sleep, and the most I got end, right? This wasn't my choice to come up at 3 p.m. because the bloody car alarm just
do you
fucking
know whose
killed
car it
itself.
was?
No, but if I do find out, I'm going to set them on fire.
I think it was Winston Churchill's car.
Oh, God.
It's Winston Churchill car, Ben. You know what to do.
What do I do? Oh, I'm gonna have to take down his statue.
You have to behead his statue.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
I've got to do.
In this episode of the Münster podcast, we're just going to go over a few different sort of topical issues. At the time of this recording, obviously, there's a lot happening in the world right now, and we can cover a few things. We'll just see what we cover. We just mentioned one of them, which is the Winston Churchill statue situation. I'm just gonna say. I mean, even calling it a situation will probably upset some people. I mean, to some people, there's a very distinct right and wrong to what to do with this, but I think that's a very uneducated way to look at it. I don't know.
That was too far, Charles.
Yeah,
You've
no.
already included them.
Yeah, so I mean, the only reason we're talking about it now and not, a few weeks later, earlier, is because I think there's little point really discussing it. There's not a lot to discuss, I think. And I think actually what an interesting thing would be to talk about is the possible effects of these protests and riots, basically. How monumental actually is this? Because when you look at the news and things like that, people are constantly saying, oh, look, these are the biggest riots we've had since Martin Luther King's assassination and things like that. But in reality, how much of an effect will it actually have on the United States and the world? We've already seen the effects on the world because there are protests literally everywhere, in Australia, Germany, South Korea, whatever. But how much will it actually change? Because things like this have happened before. So
Right. I want to start by talking about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle.
Fallout New Seattle. It's the new PS5 game,
Oh my
it's the new
God.
PS5 game. It's like VR.
Oh,
But you go to Seattle and you go to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and it's just all there for you. There's loads of homeless people stealing your food.
Oh, I can't wait to plug in my Wi-Fi.
The RuneScape farm.
Yeah, regardless of what they're actually standing for, I've seen pictures of them trying to make a farm, and they've just got a lot of plants in their pots, which are half buried into some dirt in a little field. And yeah, they're already running out of food, despite it being their existence has been maybe a few days, I think.
I think it's like a week.
They're already running out of food. They invited a lot of homeless people into the autonomous zone, and the homeless people just stole their food and then left.
This is that is what utopia looks like in practice, because certain political ideologies, it's like, oh look, it's good on paper, you do it in practice, it's not good. This is probably the best example of that.
The worst country.
The worst country in the world. I mean, the thing is though, we're talking micro states here, okay? I think is this worse than Sealand?
Well,
Is the Fallout New Seattle worse than Sealand? Because the history of the autonomous zone might be very short. For all we know, the government could just send the troops in and just destroy everything next week.
Now that would be fun.
It's an absolute mess because
the Enclave is coming.
I'd rather live in Sealand than I would in the autonomous zone.
In the Seattle autonomous zone, there's a number of just odd things that are going on. For one, when they asked for food after they ran out, they made sure to specify that it must be vegan.
The soy boy menu.
They pleaded for vegan food. One of their leaders went on like a Twitter rant about he's an abusive boyfriend and that all of his
he's an abusive boyfriend.
Yeah,
or he has one.
Yeah, and that he's going to kill himself because he regrets being an abusive partner to all of these people.
Jesus,
that was
could
weird.
you imagine Joseph Stalin upon seizing power? He's just like, yeah, I am an abusive husband. I'm going to kill myself. He just announces it to his people.
I mean,
like Hitler. He seizes power after a massive political turmoil, and he's just like, yeah, I'm a massive jerk.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference between what is it, Hitler and Soy Boy from Minneapolis, though.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it reflects.
You wouldn't be surprised.
It reflects the population quite well. To say that the people coming out and saying, look, we have no food now. Which, fair enough, it can happen. Countries go through famines. I mean, look at China. Okay. So the autonomous zone, and they come forward and say, we need some food, and the only food they will accept are beans and kale.
Oh, you just got
beans and kale. It's the only thing they need.
I've read there was a rapper there who was taking like de facto power because he's got like an armed posse of bodyguards.
Oh my god. Yeah, actually, another thing I saw was there was on some sort of forum, somebody that owned a store that was either nearby or inside the autonomous zone. Some people from the autonomous zone came to his shop and said, you need to pay us like $500 or something, because we're protecting your store. And they also made it very clear that they would accept Bitcoin. So they're already levying a tax. They've got armed mercenaries guarding the local businesses, which I think is amazing.
Oh my fucking god!
And the fact that this all came, I seriously wonder what George Floyd would think of this very specific protest, because in the end it is a protest. Yeah.
Is this the revolution?
No.
This Capitol Hill, is it the revolution that Marx wrote about?
No, this will end in a month, right? We're just gonna get fucking bing bong.
In a month?
Right?
How long do you think it will last?
Mate, look, they eventually, right? Because they all use like vegan soy products, right? They're gonna run out of energy really quick. So they're just gonna like
they eat a lot of kale though.
Yeah, if they stop feeding them, if people stop feeding them, they're just gonna die.
Well, hopefully their farm will, kick off.
Yeah, but it's not gonna because they're incompetent.
Yeah, I mean, they plant this farm like it's a Minecraft farm. Like in a day,
you'll have a massive
got stone. Yeah, like all of a sudden the next day you have a massive prepared meal or something. Even though farms take like a full year to like do their thing.
Yeah, they're fucking retarded.
I honestly think it will last like an extra week, and then the police. Because, the zone has been established because the police in Seattle must be fairly passive at the moment, right? And let's say that in the next week that the police draw up their plan of action, that zone is gone.
Yeah,
I did see on Instagram there was a set of photos that someone who lives nearby had taken after we went to visit and like have a walk around. They said that. Well, they said, and the pictures showed that there aren't actually a lot of people there.
Yeah.
It's quite an empty area, and most of the people who are there aren't even black. They're just like very high white people. And
the typical white woman.
Yeah.
As we like to say, as we like to make fun of the white women.
It's just it is quite empty. They don't have much of a population. They do claim to have armed people like guarding the perimeter.
I'm not seeing any.
There aren't very many of those.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not going to hold together. I reckon you could disperse it with maybe 5 decently armed policemen.
I mean, I mean, we're saying how long is it going to last, and we're calling it a country and all that. I don't really think that's kind of the point, if you know what I mean. Like, in the end, it is meant to be just another way to oppose the kind of police and just show how frustrated these particular people are or whatever. But it is really funny. Like,
Oh
It
yeah,
is really funny.
This is a shit show.
Of
right?
course, the middle class white hipster people rise up.
All right, well, fucking,
Like, and just do this. Like, it's genuinely so baffling to me. Like I know, people make fun of the white people sort of thing, but like this is that.
right.
Yeah,
well,
but they're just laughing.
It is literally,
Leave me
I'm
alone.
telling you, this is okay. Right, everyone was talking about PS5 last night and some of the games that got announced for that. This was the leaked PS5 game before the announcement. I'm just saying, literally the new Fallout game set in Seattle in Washington State. I don't know. Maybe you want to play that. Maybe you don't.
Right, well, they curtailed their police thing for some reason because it was like, what do we do now? Because we're getting the smallest bit of backlash. Oh, I guess we'll just disband our whole police unit and go into pure and utter anarchism. Is so what? I don't understand what they're trying to do, right? Because
Yeah.
of fucking their idea is, some police bad. I guess we'll get rid of all police. All right, so that's a fucking great idea. Why don't we just send the whole state into anarchism? Right? I don't know, like, what even is their plan? We're gonna get their neighborhood watch as the actual fucking police. We can't even do citizens arrests now because there's no police to then come and get them.
Yeah.
So
a part of the PS5 announcement that people didn't see was, if you order a PS5, you also get an assault rifle for free, and you get employed into the local community police, and you become a part of the police. It's literally IRL. What is that police game called?
That is some fancy VR.
That is some fancy VR.
Detroit become police.
It's Detroit Become Police. Literally. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. PS5. I still can't get over that, but I'm mentioning it a lot because I think it's hilarious. I can't get over how terrible it looks.
Yeah, it is truly
It's
bad.
absolutely terrible.
Do you take the Wi-Fi router or the fridge?
The fridge.
I don't know. I think I'll maybe take the Wi-Fi router.
Yeah, but like imagine all the Monster Energy drinks you could put in that fridge, man. Damn.
Actually, that is what the autonomous zone needs.
That's an alpha moment.
That is what the autonomous zone needs. Some Monster Energy. It needs some Monster Energy. I'm pretty sure it's vegan, right? I don't see how it wouldn't be.
Yeah, we could get all the kids named Kyle.
Yeah.
They're gonna like slurp
The
it
Kyle
down.
army.
Like,
Who's gonna win? Who is gonna win? The entire United States army or 10 Kyles who are jumped up on Monster?
They're gonna start glowing like Green Lantern.
Exactly.
And we're gonna fucking beat shit.
We've just solved the long-term problems of the autonomous zone.
You see,
with Monster
this
Energy.
is why
Sponsored by Monster Energy, everyone.
This is why we're the best podcast. We can solve racism and the autonomous zone just by simply speaking about it.
Genuinely perfect, but actual genius.
Try and tell us that Joe Rogan's going to solve racism. He is.
Joe Rogan can't do shit.
Are.
Joe Rogan knows nothing. He doesn't know what he's
talking about. Joe
talking
Rogan
about.
is just gonna fucking smoke weed.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You need Monster Energy. Right. So, I mean, that is definitely one of the kind of... So you had George Floyd's death, and you get this kind of butterfly effect, and it literally affected, all parts of the world. There are protests literally everywhere, and it's, now there's debate over how should we perceive historical figures from the past. There's calls for education reform. There's calls to take down statues, put different statues up or whatever. I mean, what do you guys actually think would change? Like, in the next 5 years, do you think that this will have actually changed? I say solved racism. I don't mean it in the joking way, but will it have made an actual difference?
No. End of conversation.
Why not?
Right. Thing is, right, is they seem to be targeting like very specific people, but not like the topic as a whole, right? Especially if you look in like America. Yes, they are trying to get some like the statues of the racist people down, but they're still the same people who still probably love the likes of Taft, Woodrow, Roosevelt.
I do love Taft and Roosevelt.
Yeah, right. But they're probably the same people who still probably love the old Democratic Party and the old Republican parties, which were both fucking racist as fuck. They'll probably still hail them, but then still be like, go to take down of horseman. It's like it's so dumb.
That Roosevelt statue, you mentioned the horseman, but are you thinking of the same one I'm thinking of? The Roosevelt statue where he's on the horse, yeah?
Yeah.
That one, I feel like should be a little bit of an exception to what these people are talking about because that is outside a museum. Like that is outside a museum.
Yeah. I get that, right? But like, you can't tell me we should take down certain statues of certain people if we're not going to do it as a whole, right? If we're taking down racist statues, and you've got to just take them all down, or you take none of them down, because it'd be counterintuitive to leave some, because then it just looks like you are even solving the issue if you believe that's solving the issue. You're just saying, oh, we'll take these down, but we'll leave.
I like this racist better than this one.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like they're still racist. Stop, like, you know.
Is censoring history a good idea, though?
No, I don't think it's a good idea in the first place. But if you're gonna do it, you've got to do,
at least do it equally.
Yeah, at least do it equally to a certain capacity. Like,
I mean,
you can't
really, everybody was racist back then.
Yeah,
I know that's a very
that's...
very easy way to cop out and be like, oh, he's not actually that bad because they're all like that. But it's that is literally the truth, though, isn't it? That is the truth.
That was the culture. That's the thing. But it's not like people. It's not like you're gonna be like, you're trying to take a stance where you're like, oh, these people are bad, but you still love the people of the 1800s who were still racist.
Yeah.
Or the people in the 1900s who were still racist, like fucking Woodrow. It was
Big Woodrow.
Bloody Woodrow Wilson was very racist.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like censoring history and stuff like that. Bringing the cancel culture that we have against modern celebrities and putting that in history, it's just really weird. It's so weird, right? Because the things with history is that you can look back on certain people and you have all the information you need. Like, if you're going to study Hitler, you have all the information you need because, he's dead and it was a long time ago. Okay, so you can just study it all, and you will see that there is depth behind all the actions he did, whether they were, potentially good or bad things. There's like a chain of command and stuff like that. You can actually look at it, which is different to how you can look at modern celebrities. And let's be honest, most modern celebrities are purely like, they're just like vanity, really. Like, they're not historical figures. Okay, they're not politicians. They're not warriors or protesters or something. You know what I mean? Elon Musk wholesome.
You make an electric car.
I mean, even him though is different to like J.K. Rowling or something. You know what I mean? Because he's an entrepreneur. We'll get onto her later. We will get onto her later. He's like an entrepreneur. He's more of a famous figure, and Donald Trump and Obama. These are all incredibly influential people. J.K. Rowling, while she is still influential because she's an author, and her works have influenced people. Again, we'll talk about that later. It's just not quite the same. So when people apply that same cancel culture to historical figures, not only is it just a really strange thing to do for the reasons I mentioned just a second ago, but also it's just a really insulting and ignorant thing to do. Like, people spend their whole lives studying the past, and for you to just come along and say, they're like, this guy, let's cancel him, it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's like, it's dumb because you're meant
Nothing
to
changes.
You're meant to learn from history, so by censoring it, surely you are contributing to more problems than you are solutions.
And also, I think there's a kind of when you look back at history's greatest figures, there will be people like Napoleon, Genghis Khan, and Churchill. Okay, all three of those people were xenophobic, racist, and possibly misogynistic. Yeah, all three of those are traits that nowadays we will look back on and say, look, they're not desirable traits in a person in our society. Yeah. Yeah. But you still label them as great people, not because they're nice people. Okay.
Yeah, not because they're beliefs, but like what.
Not because they're nice, but because they perform. They do extraordinary things, whether they're good or bad. Like, you could consider Hitler a great person, or Stalin, or Mao. You could consider them great people because they're the figurehead of a monumental and extraordinary historical event. Like Genghis, for example, was a mass rapist, but you consider him a great person because he had the biggest empire in all human history.
Yeah.
He spawned it out of literally nowhere. It's like Luxembourg conquering the entire world now.
Yeah.
So you consider these great people, and that's something I don't think these people understand. Like you call them great people not because they're nice, but because they are literally great people.
Yeah, that's the point. It's not like it's because they're historical figures for a reason, and the reason isn't because they're racist, more because of what they've done, and people just seem to like miss the point on that. It's like we don't have a statue of Churchill because of his beliefs. We have a statue of what he did in World War II. Essentially, what you're doing with the statue, you're taking them by taking it down, you're taking the meaning away from it. So you're basically saying all of Churchill's accomplishments, what he did in World War II, because he wasn't the best person, that doesn't matter. Despite the fact what he did, it just doesn't matter. They're just gonna pull it down because he was a slightly bad person.
If you are seriously like self-aware enough or like woke or whatever, yeah. Then when you look at that statue of Churchill, you won't immediately say, "Oh, I love Churchill. He's perfect. Oh, he's a hero of the empire. He's an amazing person. He wasn't evil. He's literally Jesus 2.0." Yeah. If you seriously are, well informed, you're balanced, and you're not one of these people, you won't say that, and you won't say that straight up. Oh, he's just racist. Oh, he's just a tyrant. You won't say that in either of those two things. You will have a balanced view of it. Okay.
Just because there's a statue of them doesn't mean they're immune to criticism. You're still allowed to not like that person.
Yeah.
You're still allowed to say, I think that some of the things that this person did are bad. Those aren't against the rules just because there is a statue of them commemorating something good that they did. Because no one is either good or bad. It is never that black or white. So you just have to actually take the look at this statue and think, they did do some bad things. They also did some good things. The statue is commemorating the good things, but that doesn't mean I have to ignore the bad things that this person did either.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually a really interesting example of this, okay, because a lot of these statues that are getting torn down, they're, in the end, they are just statues, if you know what I mean, like they're just like an iron cast statue or stone or something like that, right? But some really huge monuments, I think two come to mind when I think of controversy like this, is the Lincoln Memorial and Nelson's Column in Trafalgar Square, right? Yeah. Those two are ones that might come into my mind because if you're going to get rid of Columbus statues, if you're going to get rid of Rhodes statues or Churchill statues, right? The Lincoln Memorial and the Nelson Column have to come into this argument too, because they're both also, they're literally statues of said people. Like, you know what I mean? And they are commemorating these people. Would we put up a statue of Lincoln today? Would we put up a statue of Nelson today? Like, is that something we would do?
Oh, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah. So then why aren't people talking about these statues then? It's kind of weird because these two particular landmarks that I've sort of pointed out, they're very ingrained in those cities, London and DC respectively. They're very ingrained in those areas. So I think people forget that they're, statues in a kind of weird way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's more of like it'd be like more of a building than it is a statue. It's not like, it's kind of like you see it as like just a thing that blends in.
Yeah, I don't see people protesting in Trafalgar Square, climbing on Nelson's column and chopping his head off.
No.
Like, he wasn't a perfect person either. He literally had an affair with somebody who he knew was married to. Like, he wasn't a nice person, definitely, because, he'd ruined somebody's marriage. Lincoln as well was probably racist, ironically, actually. He was incredibly reluctant to free the slaves. He only did that for, political reasons, really. So, why they aren't being discussed either, I don't know. Maybe it's because of what they symbolise, but then if it's because of what they symbolise, then why is Churchill getting taken down?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I was going to make. It's like, if no one's protesting the Lincoln statue, Well, then why are you protesting the Churchill statue?
What about
Because,
the Washington Monument as well? It
Yeah.
doesn't have a statue of Washington, but it's for him. This weird
Yeah.
white pillar thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's for him at the end of the day. Why isn't that getting, spray painted, destroyed, beheaded? I don't know.
Yeah.
Washington literally had slaves. Is it because of what he represents is different? I mean, he might represent a different thing to other people. So
You'd think it'd be like one of the first ones they targeted as well. Like
yeah, exactly.
Washington. But they've just completely ignored it.
Um,
Weird.
yeah. So we talked about cancel culture earlier, and we briefly touched on it, but we will now talk about the big boy, J.K. Rowling. She's in the news again, boys. She's in the news again.
Because she used the Twitter and people went me no like, and
Yeah.
now she's on the BBC like J.K. Rowling fucking.
I don't actually
comedies
know what
again.
happened with J.K.
Right.
Rowling.
Okay, right. So basically, completely out of nowhere and unprompted, she basically tweeted saying that I personally don't believe that transgenderism is like a scientific fact. Right, and then it was like it was a really long thread, and then she also said, however, this does not change my mind on whether they should have certain rights or not. I think they should have rights or whatever, and then people went absolutely ballistic over that.
Yeah.
I think this has finished her. I think probably because people have cancelled her this far.
Well, I don't think she was gonna do all anyway. Like.
Well, I don't think she's gonna do it anyway, but people are like, oh, these people. They like Harry Potter. I don't have to describe what kind of person they like. They absolutely love Harry Potter. I think that's enough to explain what kind of person they are. And people are saying, oh yeah, she's transphobic. She, whatever.
I think I have seen at least one of these tweets that you referred to, and I thought that she said that she does believe in simple transgenderism, like from male to female, female to male, but she didn't believe in the extended thing that some people are into, where there's extra ones.
Yeah, I think she mentioned something about like biological sex and things like that as well, and that was something she had a problem with. Whether you agree or disagree with that, is whatever really. It's none of my business. But I think we're mainly kind of focused on her getting absolutely lambasted by all of her fans.
Right. I think I just feel like people are out to do it at this point, and are out to try and just have a moan.
Absolutely absurd.
Right. I feel like people just want to absolutely just moan at people and moan about people and lambast people, and so when they get the opportunity, that's what happens. And I feel like this J.K. Rowling thing is an example because the extremes this has been taken to, I just feel like is a bit absurd. Like people could have just said, yeah, you know what, maybe I don't agree with what she said, and I'd be like, yeah, you know what, fair enough.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't attack a person for it. It's kind of dumb. It's not like one of those extremes.
Yeah, well, I think Rowling herself was incredibly flawed anyway.
It's an incredibly harmless tweet at the end of the day. It's not like she's called for genocide of trans people. It's not like she said something incredibly just fucking like racist or something.
I mean, a lot of the arguments against her is that is your personal denial of whatever transgender concept she was talking about, like a denial of somebody else, like say, a transgender person, is your personal denial of that theory or concept a denial of this person's, livelihood? Like, not necessarily you saying, oh, I don't want you because you're transgender, but is a denial of that theory, kind of harmful to a transgender person? Because that's what a lot of people are saying. That's why people are saying, look, she's transphobic. That's what a lot of people are saying. And personally, I'm a bit torn on it, if I'm honest.
I feel like it's it is a weird issue because the stance she took is kind of like a weird central part of it, because she's kind of said, yeah, I do believe in the movement over. However, I don't believe in this certain bit. So she's taking like kind of a two sides to it. She's kind of looking at it like a devil's advocate thing. So it's weird to look at. I don't think she's transphobic. I feel like that's just a bit too far, if you know what I mean. Because like, surely if she was transphobic, she wouldn't agree with a certain bit of it.
She wouldn't want them to have rights if she was transphobic.
Yeah, exactly.
Which she I think there is a certain part in the tweet which she implies or makes it clear. Look, just because I disagree with this doesn't mean that I don't want transgender people to have legal statuses and other rights, basically.
Yeah, because like it's not like she's just fully outed trans people. It's more of like she said she doesn't agree with a certain part of it. It's like looking at I know this is a weird comparison, but it's like looking at a politician. It's like saying, "Oh, I like some of Sanders' policies, but I also don't agree with certain parts of these policies." And then someone saying, "You're completely against Bernie Sanders." That's stupid. That's stupid, and that's essentially what's been applied to this transphobic thing. I don't think she's transphobic. I feel like there's an argument to say that maybe what she said might be wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong for believing that, because I can completely understand why you would believe that. But like she's not transphobic. People are just being so like.
I know. Like, I do agree that I feel like people are out to get rid of people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're out to lambast
The thing is that these people with that kind of mentality think that bullying people who say things that they don't like is activism.
Yeah, like there's a kind of like witch hunt to it.
Yeah, that's the vibe that's coming off this. It is a witch hunt vibe at the end of the day.
Actually, I think another... I say decent. I was about to say decent. Probably not decent. It is a bit exaggerated, but what this kind of reminds me of is Mao's Cultural Revolution, where anything that he didn't, he'd go to the people, he'd give them the armband, he'd give them the book, and then he'd say, "Look, these people are the enemy," and the mob would follow him, and they would get rid of these intellectuals, these scholars, people that used to work with the monarchy, the nationalists, members of the military, and they walk them in the streets and they shame them. Like, I know that is a bit of a stretch to compare angry soy people on Twitter to Chairman Mao, but it's the kind of similar psychological thing, isn't it?
It's just a shit version of Mao's thing at the end of the day. It's the soy boys have united, right? And they're just saying, right, you have to agree with my ideology, otherwise you are against me, which isn't true, because people should be allowed to have their own opinion. But if you're gonna completely lambast and harass someone because they might not necessarily agree with you, that is just completely wrong, right? It's okay to disagree and have an argument, but there's a difference between having an argument and harassing. And she's been pretty much harassed.
Yeah, I mean, that is, to be fair though, that is the exact same point that they're using against her, because the people that are cancelling her believe that what she said, the denial of the transgenderism, basically, her denial is like straight up incredibly offensive to these transgender people. I mean, I think that's the main area of contention, really, because I think we can all agree here that cancel culture is incredibly unproductive.
Yeah, cancel culture is cancer.
So is the denial of transgenderism a denial of a transgender person? And I think that's a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah, it is. It's not black and white at the end of the day. It's not. It's something you can have a variety of opinions about, but none of us opinions should be lambasted to a certain extent. Obviously, maybe if people are like, trans people don't exist, and you're like, yeah, maybe that's a bit, that's a bit far. Maybe saying they shouldn't have rights is, a bit far. But she didn't say that, did she?
No.
She's not putting other people on a pedestal.
Yeah, and I think another funny part about this is that Rowling has long been the champion of progressivism. I mean, before this, you could argue.
Yeah.
This may have changed probably her image a lot.
Well, for a while, there's been a lot of memes that I've seen about her like incessantly like retconning Harry Potter to make certain characters
so that
gay.
is why she is. she used to be this kind of leader of progressivism, particularly with, you know, the younger generations, because, you know, they grew up with Harry Potter books and the films and the media corporation that is Harry Potter. Anyway, so she has long been this figure, and she would go and retcon. I mean, I think that was a terrible idea to begin with, but people seem to enjoy it, and only now people are saying, look, you're not actually as progressive as we once thought, because all your main characters are white. You know, 2 out of the 3 are white straight guys. You know, you can't just retcon your
I remember
story.
at one point she tweeted that Hermione was black despite writing that Hermione was white in the book.
Yeah, exactly. So I never liked her anyway, if I'm completely honest. But I think this is possibly a bit too far. But then again, I think the cancel culture part is wrong. But what she said, I think there could be a pretty decent debate surrounding what she said.
Well, it's fair enough to disagree with what she said. It's just the harassment.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, are we surprised though that Harry Potter fans?
I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised at all.
I say upset. I don't mean upset. I mean enraged.
One of the worst, like, aggressive, like, fandom groups that you can come across, like the K-pop people,
fans,
who
Marvel fans.
They're all horrible because they
Star Wars fans.
They just get really angry and, like,
it is a children's book in the end. It is a children's book in the end, and actually, when J.K. Rowling did retcon a lot of things to make her franchise look a lot more progressive than it really is, because let's be honest, I say progressive, I mean deliberately trying to be progressive. In the end, it's just a franchise.
Yeah.
You know, it's not actually that important, in my opinion. When she did go and retcon those things, it was just a really stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. You've not written this into the book. You're just making yourself look like an idiot. And one day people will, for some reason, only later, will realise that you were doing it just so you could look good. And people are starting to realise that. And you know what? For that, I am glad. And I also think, though, that when people were incredibly happy that she retconned things, for example, I think she made Dumbledore gay.
Gay.
Yeah.
Dumbledore Voldemort had hot, steamy sex. Thank you, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, she also published the cut chapter where it's just like an erotic gay sex scene.
Yeah, he was good. Like, oh, it's gone from PG-13 to PG to 18.
Yeah, you can play with my magic wand, Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, Voldemort, let me feel your head, your bald head.
Let me slap my balls on your head, your bald head.
Anyway, let me cast some spells.
When she did retcon those things, what I think is hilarious is that people were incredibly happy with those changes, and I have a problem with that for 2 reasons. One, because it's retconned. It means literally nothing, because it was never made clear that he could be gay, in the books, right? And second of all, like I said before, it's a children's franchise book. This doesn't change a lot. She's not gone back and be like, actually, it turns out Hitler was gay. She's not done that. She's not done that, right? She's just changed. She's changed the sexuality of a wizard in one of her kids' books. Like, literally boil it down to that. It's actually absurd. And the fact that people are thinking, oh my god, this will change future generations when they read the books and they find out their favourite character is gay, or make them not homophobic. It won't. You're an idiot.
Yeah, that's so dumb. It's like, we have gay wizards. I guess I'm not homophobic now.
Yeah, and again, the uproar against her from this is also hilarious, because they're like, oh, I'm never going to read Harry Potter ever again. It's like, well, yeah, I hope not. You're like 25, aren't you?
Yeah, you are literally
white woman.
47.
You 25-year-old white woman.
You are 47. You're going through menopause. Please stop reading.
Please stop dressing up as wizards.
Please stop dressing up as Voldemort. And please stop having your husband dress up as Dumbledore. And please
have him stop slapping his balls on your forehead.
Yeah, please. We've had enough.
It's kind of ridiculous. And I mean, you get the same treatment with like superhero films as well, and like Star Wars.
It's like
it's the Reddit moment, isn't it?
Yeah, the Redditors was like,
Reddit moment.
I have fat cat. Look how cute it is.
Oh, he's
dying
dying.
He's dying of heart disease.
Look at my dying cat.
That's a weird. That's a weird thing. You don't just,
Are I am killing
kill
my
your
cat.
Yeah, and you can have a fat cat. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's not like, you shouldn't actively have them just, fucking die, of heart disease.
Yeah, I am murdering my cat right now.
Thank
Just
you,
like
Reddit.
Rowling is, I don't know why. Why did she tweet that?
I don't know. She was probably.
Is she that
she
out
was
of touch?
bored.
Is she that out of touch with her audience?
She's really bored.
Like,
right
does she
now,
not realise that the majority of people that like Harry Potter are in fact not 10-year-olds, but actually 25-year-old white women who have 10 billion Funko Pop vinyls inside their living room?
Oh my god!
Like, does she not realise that? Like, these are like mindless
Yeah.
drone people.
They have their Funko Pop vinyls of Dumbledore is gay.
Yeah,
ones.
like, even if you agree with what she said, you have to admit that was just a terrible move to do. Like, she literally shot herself in the own foot.
Yeah,
Is she this dumb?
Yeah, but maybe she didn't. She probably didn't expect it, which is
Also, kind of dumb, in my opinion. You should have
we
expected it.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe she should have, but it still doesn't justify it.
Oh no, this kind of behavior, and this will go. I will link it back to what we said earlier about the statue thing, right? The police near the Churchill statue let the statue get defaced, right?
Yeah.
And personally, I have no problem with that form of protest. I know that sounds weird because it is breaking the law, but I have no problem with that kind of protest. Like, if you seriously hate this man and you have valid reasons for it, that is absolutely fine. Like, I am not 100% for Churchill either. I think his flaws are seriously terrible. I have no problem with that protest then. But what I do have a problem with is what this could turn into. Okay? When the protesters realise that they will not get prosecuted for destroying a statue, I mean, have you seen the Columbus statues getting beheaded? Like, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, again, I have a problem. I have many problems with Christopher Columbus too. Should he have statues is a debate which I will probably argue for no. Okay, but the police allowed it to happen, and that's kind of like Mao's Cultural Revolution. You know what I mean? It's like the mob go from one person to another. They go from one person. It's like a Churchill bad kill. And they're like, oh, Columbus is next. And one guy's like, yeah, Columbus is racist. And everyone's like, yeah, get him. And they all go to Columbus and they behead him, which I just denounced it, but it is kind of funny. So this kind of compliance is something that I'm afraid could go out of control. Is there a kind of exaggeration? Possibly, but it is a valid concern in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And this kind of stuff has been happening for a long time anyway. The mob mentality, the cancel culture, has now evolved into like a physical form, I suppose. I don't know how to describe it. Like if there was a statue of Jimmy Fallon, that statue would be pissed on and everything.
Oh my
God. Can we talk about that for a second? The blackface thing.
If you keep on taking these shows off, right, I'm not gonna have alt to watch. I very rarely watch TV, but if you're gonna limit my options, that's not cool, man.
They're trying to make you watch anime.
Oh my god, I don't.
The only thing you have left to watch is anime.
And then I'm gonna like Harry Potter, and then I'm gonna become a soy boy, and then I'm gonna shout at J.K. Rowling.
You're gonna like Marvel films, like
frothing at the mouth, like.
You start writing weird gay fan fictions about your favorite superheroes.
Oh my god! See, this is what they're doing, guys. They're manipulating us into being soy boys.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that nobody asked for all these television shows to be taken down. By the way,
yeah, no one.
Genuinely, nobody asked. What people were asking for was reform in the government, and then all of a sudden, Little Britain gets taken down.
Yes, I'll reform the government.
The reform begins in the BBC, which has undertaken many reforms, and that's why it's got a lot of criticism lately. But the reform begins in the BBC, guys. No more Little Britain. No more in-betweeners.
Is that the way to do it though? Because I don't think
it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't think that taking TV shows off air is gonna change the public
It does absolutely
way
nothing.
of thinking. It won't do
does
anything at all because
absolutely nothing.
nobody takes those shows seriously anyway because they're comedies.
They're comedies.
People aren't
yeah.
getting their views off of comedy shows. They watch it because it's funny, and no one is gonna see like a semi-racist scene from Little Britain and decide, yes, I hate minorities. Like that's just not how
God,
people
I'm gonna go
interpret it.
grab a machete and commit a crime against humanity.
And stab Jamal, the local.
Yeah, God damn it, I hate
corner
Jamal
shop
because I
owner.
watched Little Britain. I watched some stupid white people make a funny show. They made me do haha. Now I'm gonna go commit a terrorist attack.
Yeah, so
Stupid white people making me haha.
Yeah, fucking. They think, oh, as soon as we take these shows off, racism rates drop to
Racism is
0%. Yeah,
I think it's absolutely absurd. I mean, everybody. I think this is probably the most severe thing that we've seen so far of the kind of mob going from place to place. I say mob actually. Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that. It's the companies shooting themselves in the own foot. I don't think the mob actually went to the BBC and said, "Look, Jay from In-Betweeners is kind of racist."
Right, I've watched all the like In-Betweeners. Obviously, it was a decent while ago. I still don't understand why they took that one down.
I don't know.
It's very weird. Like they've just gone.
It's such a basic show as well. Why would you kill
it?
it?
Edgy comedy killer.
It's not even that edgy though. That's the
thing. So nobody, not one person, is getting their political views from the
In-Betweeners. Literally the most basic show ever. I'm not saying it's bad by saying that, but I'm just saying it's very standard show.
The point of the show is that the characters are all stupid, so who's going to be looking to that show for guidance on what they should think?
The same people that like Harry Potter, probably.
I saw a shit go down a slide on the In-Betweeners and now I'm racist. Alright. Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, did you not hear the news? Once In-Betweeners, once they got rid of it from BBC iPlayer, racism rates dropped to -100. We no longer have race. We no longer even have a concept of race. It's absolutely extraordinary.
That's mental, bro. The In-Betweeners really holding.
Yeah, no, but like the thing that absolutely confuses me about this is that literally nobody asked for this. By the way, not even the activists asked for this. The activists probably watch In-Betweeners. Okay, literally nobody asked for this, and these massive corporations themselves have decided, you know what? No, you will not have In-Betweeners anymore.
It's meant to be a shitty PR move, and it's just them shooting themselves in their forehead.
It's actually backfired though, because the activists, I don't know if you've seen it, but they're annoyed at celebrities for endorsing their activism, because obviously, you can be a celebrity and be genuine, but let's be honest, you're probably not, because
it's PR. It's
PR. Yeah, exactly. It always, whenever I think of celebrities doing PR, I always go back to the Sam Smith video where he sat on the floor crying about isolation.
Yeah.
Okay, these people, they're not that great. They're not great people. They're not gonna get they don't deserve statues either, by the way.
They'll only be accepted if they're in the group that are supposedly being targeted. That's the only time they're like, yes, you can join in our activism. So like, John Boyata obviously joined in with BLM protest. Everyone came in with open eyes because black man. But thing is like, you know, obviously you can be genuine about it.
I think that is a more genuine.
That is more genuine, right? But I still think there is still a possibility that celebrities will still, you know, especially if they're in that group, would still be like, a good PR move would be to join in on this activism, even if they don't feel the same way. They'd still do it because it's a good PR move. I'm not saying that you know, John Boyega.
Yeah, well, I think John Boyega's one was a bit more genuine. I think you could kind of tell, because I think when we are talking about celebrities and the PR sort of things, a lot of them just film a video saying "I stand with black people," and it's just kind of like, okay,
that's still
nice. You've just solved racism.
Yeah, obviously John's is more genuine, but I'm still saying there's still a possibility.
Oh yeah,
people could do it.
But yeah, I mean, I think. Well, let's try wrap it up now. Something I mentioned at the beginning of all of this, because, you know, even though the Rowling thing was about sexuality and transgenderism, I think that all ties together in the same kind of progressive movement. that we've been seeing like of growing over the last 15 years, basically, right? And the one thing I'd like to ask is, will this change anything? Will this change anything? And I'm gonna start off and say it won't.
This completely depends on if they do decide to reform it or not, and that
They won't.
that
I don't believe
depends
they
on
will.
that. I think that depends on who gets into office next
I
year.
don't think it'll change anything politically, but the social landscape is definitely
Definitely
changing
different, yeah.
because it's becoming a lot less acceptable to just be different, to have a different view from this.
Yeah, I mean, actually, what this particular BLM sort of like flashpoint, I suppose, is that it's becoming like a normal thing to agree with this, which is okay.
That's
I
fair
suppose.
enough.
That's fair enough because these currents come and go, right? So what will happen is that this will become increasingly normal. If an incident that happened with George Floyd ever happens again, it will be 10 times worse because more people are accepting of this view now. But the consequence of that is that other people will get pushed away from it. Whether you really should be disagreeing with the movement is again another point where people will like murder each other. So there has to be a bit of caution to this because you having everybody in this massive mob is very dangerous. This has mistakes written all over it, and it's not because I disagree with the movement or the idea. It's just any mass political movement like this is always gonna have the possibility of making things worse. And I think also politically, even if let's say Joe Biden gets into office, right?
I don't think he will, but
Okay, but right, let's say he does, which is what most of these people probably want because Donald Trump is
Orange
the enemy.
man bad.
Orange Man
Orange
bars,
Man,
yeah.
Orange Man
And
bad.
then they're going to put in someone who's probably arguably worse.
But when Joe Biden goes into office, nothing will change. And do you know why? Do you know why I think that? Because nothing changed.
He'll forget.
He might forget, but nothing
Forget
changed. Nothing changed under Obama, okay, and maybe he personally was wanting change. We will never know, okay.
Yeah.
But that's
You have to get it past the House and Congress and all that.
not how politics works, right? If this is gonna sound weird, but if Obama did do what he felt in his heart, it would be worse for the Democrats because you lose a part of your voting base because you solved all the problems, right? If a party primarily gets votes from the poor people, and you make all the poor people rich, then you've got no poor people left to vote for you. That sounds incredibly abstract, but that kind of does key into the whole idea that, in my opinion, this will change nothing. The status quo will stay the same, no matter who's in charge, and no matter what quote-unquote changes are made. For example, the police disbanding in
Well,
Minneapolis.
you could say that they need the black people to be oppressed to secure their vote.
Exactly.
They can do that. The black people they're going to promise that they will fix the black people's problems. The black people will vote for them. They use that power for their own interests,
Yeah.
and then don't fix for black people's problems. Pretend that they couldn't do it. Say, vote for me. We'll do it this time, and it just all happens in a cycle like that. And they blame the Republicans.
That also completely depends on who wins the house. Like, obviously, if it's a Democratic president and they've won the house, then there's no real excuse then. So if they have to wait for like a certain period for that to happen, obviously, they could easily use that excuse if Republicans have won the thing, right? But to a certain that can only work to a certain extent. So like under Obama's presidency, I think because he obviously did 8 years, and what typically tends to happen is it kind of switches round. So normally Democrats will win 1 year and Republicans will win another year. So I don't know if that happened. I'm pretty sure that did happen during Obama's thing. So I think that happened towards his end. So it didn't really matter. So that obviously didn't matter because he could just then use that tactic again. But
I'm not sure if it is as planned as we just described, but that is definitely happening. Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah, it
where,
is.
like you can't deny it that just because these quote unquote changes that might be coming would happen. For example, measures to prevent police brutality or whatever, the status quo will stay the same because they're not making a new country. They're not moving to a new place. They're not gutting the entire system and replacing it with brand new people again or anything like that. The same people in power will stay in power, and nothing ultimately will change, no matter how much you want it to happen. Like, this is still the United States of America. The structure of the United States political system was the same as it was when slavery was a thing as it is when it isn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
only
I
Yeah.
so
get what
much.
you mean.
There's only so much you can change, especially through peaceful protest and even violent protest. There's only
Yeah,
so much you can change. So I think, whilst it's not a useless protest, it's a futile protest,
yeah.
and that could be a very pessimistic way of looking at it. But I think that is the kind of cynical, brutal truth, really.
Well, I think getting back to the thing, the question, I feel like it is very hard to do reforms to, completely, to get rid of the problem. So the idea would be to, minimize it. However, the problem with that is depends who gets in office and also depends who passes it. I don't think it will change in the short term, but I have a feeling that in the long term it's gonna have a difference, because I have a feeling that this is a point in history where people are gonna refer back to it and are gonna be like, this is what happens when, so and so happens when we don't have our reforms, when we don't have our, our voices heard. This is what we need.
Yeah.
This is what we need to take as an example. And I have a feeling in the long term that example will be used, and it will eventually lead to a certain amount of change. When that happens, that we can't really predict that. But I have a feeling it will change, but not in the short term, but more of a long term effect.
I think what people in this progressive movement get very wrong. I think one thing that they get very wrong is that the current system and the people in power are not representative of your movement. Okay? As always, people in progressive movements are young, which is just, a trend, okay?
Yeah.
But when people look at CEOs of companies or very old politicians or financiers or whatever, and they say, look, they're the problem, they're the ones who are messing it all up for us, and then they demand changes that will affect other people from their generation that aren't with them. That's where the problem is, because these people in power, they're from last generation or the generation before, right?
Yeah.
You give it 30 years, and when they're dead and gone, you'll be in charge now, and that's when you can make the serious change. Am I saying don't protest now? Of course not. It's your God-given right to protest now, okay, and make yourself heard, whatever opinion that may be. But I think one thing that they need to realize is that the people in charge right now, they're not you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It is 100% a generational thing. Changes that were made in law and government 20 years ago still haven't had their full opportunity to come into effect, if that makes sense. And that's kind of one of the main problems with the whole idea of why don't we have enough black people in the government or leaders of big corporations and things like that. It's because it is genuinely generational thing.
Yeah. But that's a whole another debate. That's something we could probably get into at a different time. It's it's still a relevant issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that there's definitely no racist people in this generation, but that there is a serious distinction between your generation and the generation in charge. I mean, these jobs and things like that, they're not easy to get to. You do have to spend 30 years, 30, 40, 50 years of your life getting there,
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, does anyone have anything else to add on that? Because I think we've managed to conclude everything that we've talked about fairly decently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good close.
Alright.
Anyway, as always, thank you for watching this episode of the Münster podcast. If you have anything else to add to what we just said, and whether you agree or disagree, your opinion will be greatly appreciated in the comments, as would a subscribe and a like. Any support is helpful. Anything to add, guys, before we close?
No.
J.K. Rowling's gay.
Well, J.K. Rowling has decided that you are gay.
Oh, shit.
She should
Right.
retcon your life and now you're gay.
She just retconned your life and now you're gay, Ben. J.K. Rowling just retconned you. You're gay
it's
now.
Pride. It is Pride Month after all, so...
It's Trot Month.
It's Trot Month.
It's Trot Month. Oh, we didn't talk about the Hokey Cokey. No.
Well, that's for a separate episode.
That is for a separate episode, right?
So
You people that like the horse debate episode will love the Hokey Cokey episode.
Alright.
All 16 of you.
That is the end. Goodbye.